Semien, who was hit by a pitch in his last plate appearance, hits one out into the Crawford boxes. A 2-run home run makes it a 6-3 Rangers lead.
Astros at 4 here on the Wheelhouse. The highlights, but not really the lowlights if you're an Astros fan. Last night's Framber Valdez meltdown. He got shelled. 3.2 innings pitched, 8 hits, 6 earned runs. His ERA before his last 3 starts was 2.51. Now it's 3.29 because he's pitched 15 innings and has given up 15 earned runs in those innings. And honestly, BK, I know there's still time left in the year, but those 3 starts might actually cost him a chance to win the Cy Young Award.
You might be right.
Because it lifted his ERA so high where I had to look to see where he's at exactly in the AL and the ERA, but he might be out of the top 10 now.
Yeah, Framber was very much in the conversation.
He could have started the All-Star game if he wanted to, which is a sign of, hey, you're the first half Cy Young Award winner.
Yeah, he was absolutely right there. And look, there's no clear and obvious front runner for the award. So if Framber can turn things around and get back to the pitcher he was for the first 3 months of the season, then he's still got a shot to win the award. But it has been a struggle for Framber over these last 3 starts. And really, if you want to go even bigger than that, Jake, you can look at the entire month of July for Framber Valdez. He's got a 7.29 ERA in July. And hitters are hitting .299 against him. I mean, this guy, when he's on, he's one of the most unhittable pitchers in all of baseball. And in the month of July, he's been everything but. So it's disappointing, man. You thought for sure, I won't put words into your mouth, I thought for sure that when Alex Bregman spotted Framber a 3-0 lead in the bottom of the first, that the Astros were going to find a way to win that game last night. But unfortunately, Framber just didn't have his good stuff, and the Rangers hit him around like a piñata. So disappointing. Really disappointing, and it goes without saying the Astros need Framber to be Framber again for this team to reach its potential. So still a lot of talent, but Framber's the ace of this squad now. He's got to figure things out, and I think he will because he's got a long track record of being really freaking good. But he obviously has to turn some things around for the Astros to be legitimate World Series contenders once again.
They can't win without him.
No.
I think that goes without saying. Do I expect Framber Valdez to continue to pitch this poor? No, because I'm going to bet on the guy's track record. And still, even if he's not pitching great in the regular season, there's something about Framber in a playoff game where I just feel like whatever he has, he's going to give you his absolute best if he's able to do it. And so I'm not going to freak out about Framber, but he does have to pitch better in the regular season if you're going to win the division. Because the one given you have in this rotation, I would say, is Framber Valdez. Javier's been up and down. Brown's had his moments of being up and down. I think we all love the J.P. France story, but still, we're talking about a guy who we really don't know that much about. It's only 14 career starts, and it does kind of feel like at times we're waiting for that other shoe to drop. I think he's good, but Framber's the given. He's the guy. And if he doesn't pitch well, it makes it a lot harder to win that American League West if every 5 days you no longer feel like you have your ace going who's truly your ace.
Yeah, they let JV walk in free agency because they felt like Framber was ready to take that next step. And I would argue that Framber was an ace last year. Hell, I said it going into the 2022 season that I thought that the Astros had 2 aces with JV and with Framber, and Framber backed it up with a top 5 Cy Young finish in 2022. And like we said, he might have been the front runner for the award at the All-Star break. He was having an amazing first 3 months of the year. Things have just fallen apart for him a little bit. So I think the Astros have a couple of options here, Jake. There are 2 things that I would like for them to do involving Framber Valdez, and I'll go in order of preference. Number 1, they need to go back to the 6-man rotation. We've talked about this over the last couple of weeks. This is not an overreaction to last night. This is not an overreaction to Framber's last 3 starts. This is just something the Astros need to do. And we've seen ups and downs from a couple of different guys in this rotation this year. And I think part of it's reasonable to believe that has to do with the fact that, okay, these Astros pitchers got used to a 6-man rotation last year, and they haven't been in a 6-man rotation this year. So guys aren't getting as much rest. Guys are pitching more innings, and it's taking a toll on some of these arms. So they've got to go back to a 6-man rotation. I know they're shorthanded there, but once Urquidy comes back, and Dana Brown was talking like there's a chance that that happens next week, then you automatically make the move there. And hey, hopefully they add a starting pitcher at the deadline so you get 2 new pitchers that you could throw into your rotation, and then boom, you go back to the 6-man rotation to give those guys the extra time off that I think they need. And then maybe even on top of that, Jake, I wouldn't hate it if the Astros skipped Framber's next start, just giving him a few extra days of rest. You've seen some teams around Major League Baseball do something like that. Hell, the Rangers just did it with Nathan Eovaldi. And I thought it was weird to do it in this series. Like, I wouldn't want to have skipped Framber's start yesterday because that was a huge series for both teams. And, okay, you want your best pitcher out there. But, hey, maybe next time Framber's up for his turn in the rotation, you give him an extra couple of days off just to make sure that he is fine for the stretch run. I don't think that's a panic move. I just think that is smart, and that makes sure that Framber is as good as he can be for the last couple of months of the season and, more importantly, the postseason. So those are two things I think the Astros seriously need to consider. I think the six-man rotation will be pretty easy to do. Once again, once Urquidy comes back, skipping Framber, maybe not so much, but you got to think big picture with that guy. He is so important, as you mentioned, to the overall success of this year's team that you got to make sure that dude is right. It might be worth sacrificing one game in the regular season to make sure Framber can be Cy Young Framber again.
What's the playoff rotation right now? Series starts tomorrow. Who's starting games 1, 2, and 3 if it's the wild card round? And if you want to say they win the division, give us the playoff rotation. You need 4 starters. 1, 2, 3, and 4 in a best of 5.
Well, Framber's still your game 1 starter, without question. Well, if the playoffs started tomorrow, though, that's only 1 day rest for Framber. So
he wouldn't be able to pitch till game 3.
Yeah, he wouldn't be able to pitch till game 3. But now, Framber is still your ace. There's no doubt about that. And I don't think, realistically, there's anyone the Astros are going to acquire at the deadline that would supplant Framber Valdez. So, once again, when Framber's right, he's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball. So, Framber's still your number 1 guy. Number 2 is a little bit interesting. It might be JP France. It depends maybe on the playoff series. Like, if it was a best of 3, and I hate talking about this because I ultimately believe the Astros are going to win the division and they're not going to have to worry about a best of 3 wild card series. If it is a best of 3, I wouldn't be surprised if the Astros maybe based their decision on what happened in game 1. Like, all right, if we go out there and win game 1, then let's throw JP France out there for game 2. And if we need to use Christian Javier for a winner-take-all game, well, we know he's been nails in the playoffs. He's got that postseason experience. Maybe we use him. If the Astros were to drop game 1 in a series like that, then, hey, maybe they turn to Christian Javier because of what I just talked about. He's got that postseason experience, and I don't know if you want JP France's first game to be in an elimination game back against the wall. So that might play a role. I would still think, though, in a best of 7, you would consider going Javier number 2. But JP France is in that conversation for sure with what he's done over the last couple of months. But even though Framber's in this rut that he's been in, there's no question he is your game 1 starter.
Thoughts on the Framber Valdez stretch of poor pitching performances? Last 3 starts, 15 earned runs allowed in 15 innings. BK gave you the stats in the month of July. You said his ERA was in the high 7s?
7.29.
Not great. So low 7s, but still not ideal. 713-780. ESPN is the number. Let's go to Robert in Montgomery. He's been waiting patiently on hold. Robert, you're first up this hour. You're on the Wheelhouse with Jake and BK. What do you got?
Yeah. Me? Melvin?
Robert, you're on the air.
Oh, okay. You call me Robert, but it's Melvin. But that's okay.
Wait, hold on.
No,
Wait, your name is Melvin?
Melvin.
Melvin. All right, Andrew. Who screened the call? Which intern?
Intern Christopher out there.
Intern Christopher confused the name Robert and Melvin. Wow, that is not a combination of names I would expect to get some confusion over.
Exactly.
But nevertheless,
in my name.
Melvin, we apologize. On behalf of everyone at ESPN Houston, we are sorry we messed up your name. But you're on the air. What do you got for us?
All right, no problem. Hey, guys, I think that Framber has a anger management. Something is wrong with him. He has an anger management situation. It's like every time he gets upset, if he give up a couple home runs, he starts getting frustrated, and then that's when he starts falling apart. Now, my other thing is, if you guys could tell me, why does it take Dusty so long, and when he sees what everybody else is seeing, for him to make a move? We probably could have minimized the runs in that game, or it could have very well won that game if he would have go ahead on and take him out. Because we played against other players, other teams that, they were messing up in the second inning. They were out of there. So I don't know why it took him so long. If you guys can kind of tell me why it took him so long, or give me a hint of why it takes so long, I sure appreciate it. I'll hang up and listen.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the call, Melvin. Intern Chris, you paying attention? His name is Melvin.
His name is Melvin.
Not Robert. Not Robert.
Quick side note.
Yeah.
I understand there's some confusion with names time and time again, but are there any more difference of names than Robert and Melvin?
What did we call Vera the other day?
Rob in West Houston.
Yeah.
Someone-
were you there for that day?
No, I was off.
Uh,
Wait, you guys went to a Vera phone call and it was Rob and West Houston on the board?
Rob in West Houston. Yeah, that's twice this week where our interns have not come close to accurately telling us who was calling us.
Same intern?
No, different intern. This was intern Alex, who is notoriously not
Deaf?
the best with names.
Or is he deaf? You can't hear?
He might
Notoriously
be.
deaf.
He might be part deaf. I don't know if you've seen his headphones.
So he confused Rob and Vera?
Yeah, he didn't obviously put a lot of effort into finding out what the name was.
Yeah.
Man,
It's been a tough week for our unpaid labor here at Gal Media.
gonna need Joe George to whip these people into proper shape.
Come on, man. Melvin, to answer your questions, look, playoff baseball is different than regular season baseball, number one. You've got a much shorter leash. That's not a Dusty thing. That's not an Astros thing. That's an every team thing. You just have a shorter leash for guys in the postseason than you do in the regular season because those games mean a heck of a lot more. So if last night's game was a playoff game, I don't think Framber would have been given as long of a leash. And, in regards to the other question, you trust Framber because Framber's body of work, he is the best pitcher the Astros have. I know he hasn't been that in the month of July, but he is the best pitcher, starter or reliever, that this team has.
He's having a bad month, but, let's not lose sight of the fact he was probably the favorite at one point this year to be the AL Cy Young.
Yeah, so Dusty's going to trust him over pretty much everyone else on the pitching staff, and I don't blame him for that. And you look at the guy that Dusty brought in afterwards, Seth Martinez. He gave up 7 runs in 1 inning. He had an ERA of 63 last night. And it probably would have been Seth Martinez who would have been brought in earlier if Dusty took Framber out. So it's a bad night. I won't argue against that, Melvin. There's no doubt. And the anger thing is an interesting one because, look, Framber was really good through 2 innings yesterday. And you felt like, all right, Framber's back. This is one of those vintage Framber starts where he's going to shut the Rangers down and he's going to go deep into the game and give the bullpen a night off. And the Astros are going to complete this sweep, and we're going to have a good time down here. But he gave up that homer to Nate Lowe, and I really think it fell apart after he hit Simeon. I really did. He only got 4 outs after that. He gave up 2 more homers, 2 singles, a double, and 2 walks after he hit Simeon with that pitch. So maybe he got a little bit caught up in the extracurriculars, if you will, with what was going on in the game last night, and that obviously can't happen. So I don't think Framber's got a track record of doing that stuff. I think every pitcher gets frustrated at times when they don't have their best stuff, and Framber clearly didn't have his best stuff last night. He's proven that he can find ways to get guys out even when he isn't 100%, but last night that obviously wasn't the case. So you're right. Don't lose sight of who Framber is. He's in a rut right now. There are a couple of things I wouldn't mind seeing the Astros do to try to mitigate that and get him back on track. But, I don't have much of an issue with the way Dusty handled that part of the game last night. He just didn't have it. Simple as that.
You trust your ace.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't expect Framber Valdez to give up 6 earned runs. You can't go to the bullpen that early either. The answer, BK, is not always, he's starting to struggle. Let's take him out in the 4th inning. Then you just tax your entire bullpen.
Yeah.
And this bullpen's pitched more than, I think, nearly any bullpen in the American League. If you look at it, the Astros have some guys that have led the league in appearances so far this year.
Yeah, 4 in the top 10. Yeah, and I didn't want Seth Martinez pitching 2 innings yesterday because then he would have given up 14 runs. 7 was enough for that dude.
We got to see some Montero yesterday, though.
That was the most surprising part of the entire game, the fact that Montero got 4 outs without giving up a run.
He's good in non-pressure situations.
Yes, he is.
We figured it out.
Yes, he is.